So I was speaking to Corey, who we're catching up after 3 years of not seeing each other, and he was filling me in on his OCD fears, what he's been doing, and he says that his life is consumed by fear. He says, I have so much fear. He fears that his fear is a stronghold in him and his family, and his dad being an orphan, he thinks, contributes to his father's fear. When his dad screamed at him one time, he lost his relationship with his dad. He's never approved, he felt, of by his parents, are both very angry, over angry, he said. Dad doesn't know how to relate to him, doesn't have confidence in him. And he believes that his attitude, Cora's attitude towards God, is affected by the way that he sees his dad's attitude towards him. So he feels that God is not approving of him, that he's angry at him, and he still feels that even though he has tried to do what is right. He is legalistic in his approach to God. He believes that being a Christian is making sure you do all the Christian things. That has hindered him a bit. We didn't go into the gospel again today. We've done that in the past, but we will do that again to keep it fresh. The gospel seems to always be the solution to the most intractable problems, because it actually is. It is the power of God for salvation, especially in breaking down the legalistic righteousness, natural feeling that we have about that we have to perform. So he's restless when he's alone because of the fear, and he feels like he's wasted 3 years on video game, trying to keep his mind occupied and off his insecurities. He says now, though, that his faith is facing the right direction. What he means by that is 3 days ago, he decided to renew his Christian life after letting it go for 3 years. And so his way of describing that was his faith is now facing the right direction, which is wonderful. He recognizes that it's warping. Very hard for him to sleep. His swirling thoughts and some uncomfortable bed, a few other things he needs to sort out. But his fear is also related to when he has to do things that he finds uncomfortable. Now, that's exactly what anxiety is. It's a signal of danger. There is some sort of fear that is associated with what might happen. Says he whips himself to not be complacent. His body language was, he said, I just hit myself and hit myself to keep myself going, to do what is right. He said, but that gets tiring. Then you failure, then you run out of energy, and then you fail doing those things that you're whipping yourself to do. And that's a devastating failure. And you just drop your old habits and the cycle starts again. This is very typical of an addiction cycle, where you try in your own strength to beat it and you can't. And then you get demoralized. And so you fall further into it. And it's a devastating cycle. Of course, the shame and the guilt kick in then. And so you succumb more easily because you're disillusioned and disoriented. It's in this last 3 years after giving up, and he just waited to die. I was just listening to him during this time, and he was breaking down at this point. He wasn't sobbing, but he was emotionally cracking. And it was very moving. As I was just moved, even recounting it, I feel very much for him in that setting. He believes the time that we have left on as Christians is short. So he says, I just need to use the short time well. He did have a goal to be married, but he feels that he has to let that goal go, and he just has to make the best use of the time that we have left. We didn't get into that either. This is just the first session after a 3-year break. Just let him talk it out. And it was one of the things I wanted to share with you is how it ended. He says he needs to be proactive in what thoughts he allows in. And this was amazing that he didn't realize it before, that the thoughts that we have is something that we need to control. He just thought that was how he was. I spoke to another young guy when I was working in a Christian men's rehabilitation center. He was about 17 or 18, and he said to me, tomorrow I'm going to go onto that highway and I'm going to stand in front of a car or a truck. And I said, why would you do that? He said, because I thought that was the thing I should do. I said, did you ever think that you don't have to do what you think? And that was a new idea to him. He said, no, I thought you just had to do everything that your head said to you. I told him that wasn't the case, and he was quite relieved, because I don't think he wanted to walk on the highway and die. But that kid got to 17 or 18 before he learned that you don't have to do whatever's in your head. And Corey was saying this as a 30-something-year-old, that he only just realized that you don't have to let all the thoughts in. So we went to 2 Corinthians 10, 4 and 5 to capture the thoughts. That's the passage that says our weapons are the same as the world's weapons. On the contrary, they've got divine power to demolish strongholds and arguments and every pretense that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, taking captive every thought to make them obedient to Christ. That is, to bring them to Christ and also to make them, to correct them, to make them true. So I suggested that he write the thoughts down. Then what does God say about those thoughts? What does Jesus forgivenessly in light of those thoughts? And I suggested that he read Romans chapter 8, probably every day, because Romans 8 has the answer to those questions in it. It was a sad but a good session. This was a lovely outcome that he came up with. I didn't have to put that in for him, and that will often be the case.